Rockefeller International Chairman Ruchir Sharma joins us now. Ruchir, great to have you back on the show.
Thanks.
Why do you think we're in a bear market?
Well, if you look at the US dollar's history, ever since it became a freely floating currency back in the 1970s, the dollar has tended to alternate between bull and bear markets, which last about 5 to 7 years each in duration. The dollar's had a very extended bull market over the last decade, where its valuation reached levels that we saw pretty much close to the peak of the past dollar bull markets, whether it was in the 1980s or then again that we saw afterwards in the 1990s. So I think that what I expect now is that the dollar is going to be in a multi-year bear market because the valuations got very extreme. The US is still very reliant on foreign funding. The US current account deficit is close to 4% of GDP, the largest that any major developed country is running out there. And I think there is a real desire by foreign investors, especially central banks, to diversify outside of the US dollar. So I think these are some of the cyclical reasons why I think that the dollar is set to decline over the next few years. Then, of course, there is the major structural reasons, which we can speak about. And the single most important point is this, that the decision by the US to impose financial sanctions on Russia over a year ago in the way it did, in terms of throwing Russia off the grid, will go down as possibly one of the biggest geopolitical mistakes, because every country in the world, from China to India to Brazil, they're all thinking that we cannot be this dependent on a dollar system. And I think that has far-reaching consequences and makes me more structurally negative on the US dollar.
I want to pick up right there. You saw Total Energies finalizing an LNG deal settled in renminbi in recent days. First time we've ever seen something like this. You have the Saudis and the Chinese getting closer, although I think raises a lot of questions about whether and if you're actually going to see the Saudis sell oil to China in renminbi as well. Is the dollar's dominance really actually under threat here? Or is this just talk about the possibility of it?
No, these things tend to chip away. So a lot of pushback when I speak about the fact that, we're at peak dollar. And remember that this is coming from someone who used to be very bullish on the dollar in terms of a couple of years ago. I think that the problem here is this: it's the arrogance of power sometimes. That because people think there is no alternative to the US dollar, the dollar will continue to dominate. But I think what's happening here is that when people are pushed to a corner, they will come up with alternatives. So we are seeing these bilateral deals that you highlight. The other very interesting development that we have been seeing over the past few months is what's happening with gold. That gold has been steadily increasing. And why is it going up? Because the biggest buyers of gold in the world over the last few months have been central banks. Central banks are buying up gold in a pretty sizable way. So they are, again, whether it's China, India, other central banks, everyone wants to diversify outside of the US dollar. So the dependence on the US dollar has gotten so big that people are looking for alternatives, and the fear factor that has come after the way Russia was thrown off the system, while maybe the morally correct thing to do, but every country in the world is in self-preservation mode, that what if it happens to them, even if that's an irrational fear. They're looking for alternatives, that they do not want to face such an event, because obviously the financial consequences are very far-reaching if that would happen to them.